Hello. I'm not recording on my phone because my phone sucks. I can actually silence it. Sorry that took so long. Guess what? I had a dream last night. I had a dream that I figured something out. And it was like profound. And I was like waking up from the dream and I was like, I need to write this down or I'll forget. And I was like, there's no way I'll forget because this is the most important thing I've ever realized. Obviously, I'm not going to forget. And I fucking forgot. I forgot. It's weird. Usually I'm looking at my camera, which is close to the screen, so I can look at myself. But now you can see that I'm just looking at myself, and I have to practice looking up at something up here. I don't know which part's the camera. Um, Fear. I was repeating a phrase. Fear is something, and I believe it was a word that started with an A. So I just automatically want to say alchemy, but I feel like the word was longer. I don't remember. I didn't remember at all today till I was like, I looked at back at this book and said, "There's no fear in love." So why fear is important? Your subconscious mind will bring into reality what you fear most. So whatever it is that you're afraid of, you will create in your life. Ask me how I know. So Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. So what that means is if you have a childhood wound, trauma from a parent, your body or mind will create a certain set of behaviors and you will recreate the scenario so that you can confront it. And you will either, it can go one of two ways where either you get aggressive or you somehow sabotage to create the abandonment again, if it's abandonment or whatever. Like you're subconsciously creating it. Now, as I was thinking of this, I was thinking that purely academically speaking, if your subconscious mind is creating a situation in real life uh, um, to bring something to your attention, then we can just stop there and say it's a scientific thing. And then you can go like a half step into spirituality by saying that we're all on a spiritual journey of sorts and that you are creating a spiritual journey for yourself. And it's not a real spiritual journey, it's imagined. Um, there's no like purpose behind it. And then you can go all the way into spirituality where and say all of this is necessary for your soul to grow, and we're hallucinating reality, as Albert Einstein says, as Jung says, as everybody. So there could be this idea that each individual is hallucinating reality and we're all creating our own reality. Um, and whether you take that literally or figuratively, metaphorically, that's true. Just by what I said about the unconscious mind recreating the situation. Now, man will do anything no matter how absurd, to avoid facing himself. That's another thing that Jung said. And by avoiding the shadow, we are making it grow. The light is in the heart of the darkness. So when they say dark night of the soul, you go into the darkness, you have to go into your fear. So you use your pain as fuel rather than be controlled by it. So I met up with someone last night that I hung out with a couple of times, like almost 10 years ago. She was like, "Hey, remember me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I remember." What happened to that friend of yours that so and so? What happened to your friend of yours so and so? I was like, "Well, I have a lot of stories about that." And she invited me to the beach. She's like, "I'm gonna go up to the beach and smoke weed. Do you want to come?" I was like, "Whatever. I'm not doing anything." So I started to tell her about like people that she had met and knew, and the things that they did, which I didn't like at the time, and then how I suppose I probably didn't talk enough about how I alchemized her, how it didn't control me. I'm just like, yeah, now I'm not mad. I'm not mad at them anymore, or I see how it was needed to make me a better person, or how I did it to myself, like playing with snakes and then a snake bites you. It's you're at least partially responsible. Um, and this girl has been, I guess, she's been largely single for the past decade, and she just feels hopeless. Everything that she said was like really defeated, and I had made a joke. Um, I said the word retarded, and she clutched her pearls. So like, and I was like, "It's okay. I'm on the spectrum. I can say that word." And she's like, "No, you can't," and blah blah blah. And it's such a ridiculous thing to police someone's language. It's like, are you an adult? Are you retarded? If you're not, then stop pretending you're offended for the sake of an imaginary person. I've donated money to start a orphanage to house and protect disabled children. I don't correct people's language. I actually do something. You can't. So um, you can tell what kind of person just based on like, oh my god, I'm offended. It's like your whole day is ruined now. Um, so I explained. Now here's the interesting thing. Her job is she's a therapist to children, at risk children, psychopathic children, uh, children with PTSD, like in their emergency room. And she doesn't have her own life figured out. If I saw her as a kid, I would become psychopathic because she has no life in her. It was like so depressing, so depressing being around her. So of course I go into my like I have all these quotes. I have a book full of shit I've written down, like the things that helped me, the things that got me out of it. And because she's supposedly studied psychology, I imagine she knew Jung. And she's like, I'm not into theories. And I was like, gravity's a theory. Fuck do you mean? It's like, can you apply it to your life? Is it better to just be depressed and feel like she said, I've decided that I might never find someone. I'm okay with that. So you ever think that no man wants to be with some depressed, like defeated woman? Like, why aren't you doing something about it? And I can't just sit idly. I can't just sit on the floor with someone having a tantrum. I can't match that energy anymore because it's a waste of time. It doesn't help anybody, and validating someone's feelings doesn't help them. It's what everybody wants, but it doesn't help. So it's a complete waste of time. So I sent her my playlist of things that I've like videos I've watched that have helped me or helped me understand concepts or whatever. And she basically was like, she said, initially, she said she wanted to be like offering to be friends, to like stay in each other's lives, stay somewhat in contact. And then it at the same time was saying like I'm basically calling it quits on life. Like I'll never find someone kind of thing. And then I attempt to like, hey, have you tried this? Like maybe we met for a reason. Have you thought of like look through these 150 videos, look through it, maybe some of the titles and maybe something will stick out to you. And she's like, if you can respect my boundaries and not try to convert me to your religion and blah blah blah, then we can stay friends. And I'm like, what the fuck kind of friends are we then? Because you want me to talk to you about TV shows and shit? Like, this is what I have to say. And if you're always going to be depressed, I'm always going to have a solution. I don't want to just be depressed with you. Fuck off. What a waste of time. Um, so I was like, what is it? Like, what is the reason for us being friends? Friendship takes energy, right? I'm like keeping in contact with you just to make sure you stay alive. Like, you probably need to be alone. And you need to go through this dark night of the soul shit. Her fear is being alone. So what is she manifesting? She's making sure she's alone. She's so convinced like nobody will ever love me. It's like not with that attitude for sure. Like there are uglier people, fatter people, there are shorter people, there's you know what I mean? What a what a waste of life to do to yourself. You know what I mean? Um, it makes me disheartened. It's like how far people are. It's like doesn't want a solution and wants to believe that she's a victim and wants to believe that oh if someone goes out of at a bar and they get raped and blah 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 it's like okay well you know I'm not going to say that bad things don't happen to good people but I've met women that have been sexually assaulted that then dedicate their lives to prevent it happening. They help children. They bring awareness. You can turn any negative into a positive. There are people missing limbs that figure out look, they're in the Olympics for fuck's sake. Um, what happened to you is not what happened to you. It's what you believe happened to you. And if you can change your belief, all of a sudden everything's easy. Everything works weirdly. So if you're too smart to believe it, and I explained to her like the Carl Jung synchronicity story, and explaining the that the woman that Carl Jung was psychoanalyzing was a skeptic because she was an academic, didn't believe in spiritual mumbo jumbo, and in her dream she's being gifted a golden scarab beetle, and of course, as the story goes, he hears a knock at the window, opens the window. In his palm, is this your? This is your beetle, he said, and presented it to her as she's being skeptical. And the thing is, things like that happen throughout my life without me ever knowing about you. And any coincidence I brushed off until I was at a point where I was desperate enough, like, man will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing himself. That is 100% true. And now that I'm out of that, I see how everybody else is doing it. Like, as you become aware of yourself, your consciousness raises. You become more conscious of a person, and you become more conscious of the people around you. So when someone complains about their life, I almost like, it's very easy to analyze people that I know well. But people that I just meet, I can feel the feelings. And you don't really know enough backstory to put it together. But I 100% have the feeling. So, like, if a depressed person is smiling and then they're looking at me and trying to cheer me up, I can't fake it because I feel the actual what's happening underneath. I can't just brush it off, which is why it's important for me to control who I let around me. I I can't control that yet. I'd love to. I'm working on it. For instance, I met a guy a couple weeks ago. He was a nice guy, successful, and I wasn't drinking because I'm not doing that anymore, and he was. So we didn't really click. We're on a different vibration. You know what I mean? Um, Especially man to man, there's always a little bit of a tension. Um, I think posturing or something like that. But this man was outwardly successful and intelligent and worked hard, and all I felt was his lack of fulfillment, his lack of happiness. Like it felt so heavy to me. And he, at the end of the night, was talking about how he likes alcohol because he said it. He needs to numb himself, and he didn't like mushrooms because it makes him think of all the problems. And I was like, dude, you're so close. You're so close, because I was him. I was that. I was on that path. So I got to a certain point of success where I realized that I have potential to double or triple my income and become somebody. And I realized that I was spending money like crazy, and my bank account was still going up. It's like I can't spend faster than this, and I'm still saving money. And then money stopped meaning anything. Like, no matter how much the numbers on the screen changed, I felt no different. So I started doing crazy things, investing in crazy things, and just not caring what happened. Because it's make believe, anyways, right? I realized that if I made 100 times more income, I wouldn't be 1% happier. And I panicked. That was the scariest thing, because I was on the same path as Homeboy. Go to school, get your education, do the job, do it better. Like, if you're, even if you're good at the job, then you want to buy the building and do real estate. Like, there's always more money, more money, more money, more time, more time, more time. And then you're spending your life worrying about so many things that you never get to rest. So what do? Is you force the rest. You drink yourself until those things don't exist. It's the whole world outside. Everybody's doing that. Like, very few people I know are living life and enjoying it. So I really try to enjoy mine. Like, I spent enough of my life living like that. And with that guy specifically, it was like, so it hit so close to home, like how right I was to abandon that path, because he could have every material thing. He wasn't a materialistic guy, actually, which I appreciated. It's like he has the ability. The thing is, his type of business, there's probably a lot of moving parts, so he doesn't have the ability like I did to just let it go. For a while, I just let everything fall apart while I figured this shit out. And it was the least scary part about it. Like not being able to support myself or not having anything was, I was like, fucking, I don't, this shit didn't mean anything anyways. How do I figure out how to feel whole? I realized that my entire life was a lie. I was patching a hole. I was living for other people. I was doing what I like. I didn't want to go to school. I did it to make my parents happy. I don't need it for my job. I didn't need the validation. It's like you need the validation if you work for somebody, but nobody that requires validation externally is a happy person. I'll put money on it. In order to be happy, you have to be happy without anything. Then you'll be happy in every situation. And even though that makes sense, you have to you have to get the carrot in order to know. You know, everybody says money doesn't buy happiness, but you actually have to do it. Poor people, you tell them that, they're like, fuck you. And then like middle class people are like, yeah, I can see it. You can conceptualize it. But you actually have to do the thing. Like, I want to make this much money and then do it. And then what's going to happen is you're going to set a new goal and then do that. And then you keep moving the carrot. But I caught myself in mid stride. I was like I was on the cusp of greatness, I suppose. And I just stopped in my tracks and I'm at the construction site and put my hammer down. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Which is like a complete, who's doing that? Who have you ever heard of who does that? By avoiding the shadow, we are making it grow. The light is in the heart of the darkness. So I realized that all around me, what I'm seeing is fear. The answer to everything is fear. Why did this person do that? They're afraid. Why did this person hurt me? They were afraid. So the things that I was afraid of, if all your nightmares came true in real life, like whatever you're scared of, fucking Godzilla, like whatever the thing is, use your imagination. It doesn't have to be abandoned or whatever. If your worst fears manifested, right? You're scared of spiders. A giant spider breaks into your house and you're face to face with it like Bilbo Baggins. What the fuck do you do? You will freeze. You will panic. But you can't be like this for like 57 years. Like eventually you have to confront it, right? In that sense, I feel like I did that. And now I don't have the same fears. I went back to toxic relationships a lot. And I was afraid to be alone. Of course, there's like other aspects too, but I went from relationship to relationship. I was yeah, afraid. I was afraid of being abandoned. So abandonment is a huge one. So I'm an avoidant. My attachment style or my personality disorder is avoidant because if a child is crying and the parents don't give it attention, the child learns to not do it anymore and self-soothe or disassociate or like whatever the fuck's wrong with me came from that, I'm sure. And I don't blame my parents because they came from a tough situation, and they had their own demons to face. And it was my path. Like those things needed to happen to shape me into who I am. I'm a better person than most people. I can say that confidently because I'm trying to be. I'm actively doing it. I keep a jumper cable in each of my cars and tools to help people on the side of the road if I run across them, you know? I Someone sent me a GoFundMe for his mom's surgery or medical bills or whatever, and I paid the whole thing. And I know it's not like spiritually speaking, you're not supposed to tell people these things. But he just texted me for Father's Day and he said something nice. He said, Happy early Father's Day. Whoever gets to be your kids is really lucky. I take the responsibility seriously. That's why I don't have kids yet, is because I know that I could be the best dad, but kids need moms. You don't really need a dad. We're optional. Like, I'll do the best I can for sure, but um, all of your relationships are whether professional or friendship or romantic, it's based off of your relationship with your mother usually, unless you don't have one. And obviously, there's statistics for crime and other bullshit when you don't have a father, but um, we need each other, men and women. We play different roles, and I can't do all this inner work and then be with an unconscious person because that unconscious pain is contagious. As much work as I have done in the past however many years, I still have the tendency to fall back onto what I know. You're fully programmed by age 7. All your fears, all your how you're going to act. The Jesuits say, "Give me a boy to the age of 7, I'll show you the man." Probably because they want to fuck that kid, but the church. But that's when your brainwave changes. Like your brainwaves are in a hypnosis state until age 7. That's why kids learn languages so easy. So imagine you basically have to hypnotize yourself as an adult to get in that same state to program yourself. So it's a lot of repetition, and then if something triggers you, you just go back into your programming. If you're written 10 and 90, 10% of your brain is conscious. That's when they say that you only use 10% of your brain. It's not true. 90% of your brain is subconscious. There's something like 40,000 times more information per day that your subconscious mind absorbs. So when I have a dream, I'm excited because I'm getting a message from my subconscious, which is connected directly to the divine, which is the creator of all things. So I'm getting a divine download. I'm like, okay, what is this? Fear. So what was my subconscious mind trying to tell me? So I'm talking to you. Um, so I have so much experience with this. I realized that like I would date people that would trigger me in a certain way, and then I would blame them. Of course, they would blame me. They're doing the same thing that I'm doing. Like you're just finding in the world someone that will teach you the lesson. That's again like it could be totally scientific or it could be absolutely spiritual. It could be both. I see both. So someone who's damaged the same way, you just might cross their path someday. It might be destined. Might be this is the person who's meant to wake you up. This is the person who's meant to hurt you. This is the person who's meant to show you something about yourself. And every relationship is a mirror. So even now, like I realize you don't really work on yourself or learn in a relationship, but even now, like I realize I'm not as far as I thought because I'm shakeable. But what I've come to understand is I'm not supposed to be a monk. Like Carl Jung talks about integrating your shadow. The Buddhists talk about the middle way, the yin and yang, and then there's the line in between. So I'm not supposed to be a monk and then hide away the negative aspects of myself. I'm supposed to embrace it. So I can do nice things for retarded children and say the word retard. That is better than the alternative, which is the rest of the world, like everyone who's getting upset hearing that word. It's like you are retarded, being upset over words rather than your own neglect of retarded children. You fuck. So fear. I could only surmise that the women I've dated have some type of father wound that I manifest. Because if they embody, my mother wound, we're unconsciously doing it together. It's like a magnet. Like the polarity has to be, it can't be anybody. It has to be someone. I mean, in this sense, I like, how do you not call that destiny or fate, right? But when you become conscious of it, I watched this video. He's like, just because you become conscious of it doesn't mean it stops hurting. On the contrary, it's going to hurt a lot more. Um, but you're bringing it into the light. So eventually, the idea is that it stops hurting. And now I'm aware, like I'm conscious of. I'll have negative thoughts. I'll think like, oh, that person never loved me or something like that. I start going down that rabbit hole, and then I stop myself. I also like that's the programming talking. That's how I used to talk to myself. But I'm more like of an observer now, and I'm like, whose thoughts are these? Why are you thinking that? Even if that's true, is it productive? Like, why am I torturing myself or attempting to? Because I don't have the used to be like this crippling pain in my chest, and I couldn't eat, and I couldn't work, and I couldn't function, and that doesn't happen. And it's not that I don't care anymore. It's that I'm more conscious, which is what I'm trying to help other people do. So, like, I feel the pain in people. I don't know if this is my autism superpower. I don't know what it is, but I feel it. I always have, but I feel it as if it's mine. I feel it as if it's coming from me, so I wasn't aware. And this is why it's important for me to control who's around me because I just absorb how they feel, and it it affects me. I don't know how else to say it. It it sucks. It sucks. That's all I can say because I want to help them because if they're happy, I'm happy. And if they pretend to be happy for a moment or whatever, it's like I can't switch the gears. Like I know it's not real because I'm matching the vibration that they have. You can't fake a vibration. And to change your vibration, it takes conscious thought. Your thoughts create your vibration. So someone acting happy is not someone who's happy, it's someone who's acting. And I can spot a fucking actor from miles away. I decided, like, for a while in my videos, I was like, I'm not gonna cuss anymore, and I'm gonna blah blah blah. I was like, I'm fucking doing it. This is who I am. I, at least at this point. I'm sure when I'm a father, I will be different. But right now, fuck it and fuck you. That's how we talk. Um, Fear's a motherfucker, isn't it? I'm thinking about like even the vicious people I've met, the snakes, the narcissists, the energy vampires, and I feel their pain. You know what I mean? You know, if a shark stops swimming, it dies. So it's like they consume and consume and consume and need energy from everybody or else they die. I had this thought after my friend said I'd be a good dad. I've been told that by a few people. Um, Never anyone I've dated. But I guess that's why they're exes. But I was thinking how, so in my specific case, when my mom was pregnant with me, my dad was in danger of getting deported, losing his job and home, and this is personal, but my little brother was uh, a year old. Um, so I'm absorbing my mom's stress as she's thinking she's going to lose everything and has to fight to keep her husband in the country and her family together. My brother feels her stress and is acting out, and he needs soothing, and she was incapable because she's panicking. And that's the story of most, like everybody has something like that. But now being aware of it, of course, you can't, like there's a guy named Gabor Mate, and his mom. I mean, he was born during like the Holocaust, so his mom was a Jew and gave him up because she didn't know what was going to happen, and he, as an infant, was crying all the time. So his mother called the doctor and said, "Can you please look at my baby? He won't stop crying." And he said, "Is I'm really busy, like whatever." And then she's like, "Please," and he's like, "Just so you know, all my Jewish babies are crying because they felt the stress of the mother." So then he developed like personality disorders, like ADHD and stuff like that, disassociation, fight, fight, flight, freeze, um, and disassociate. And then he's now like a leading research. Like that's why it happens, right? He alchemized it. Now he treats children who have this problem. Now, like ironically, he was on this crusade to figure this stuff out, and then neglected his own children and caused the same trauma. So I'm sure in some ways I will, if I become a father, I will fuck up as well. But I at least will not fuck up the same way. Let's do a new one. So rather than like unconsciously choose someone that will recreate situations I had, unless I guess so that's supposed to happen, which is bananas to think about. supposed to just like you're supposed to just let the trauma happen. I guess that's what God does, right? He has the benefit of seeing the bigger picture. I don't. But my fear was like, okay, I'll have kids with someone, like my peers do, like just to do it. I'm the right age. You're here. Let's do this. And then something happens to me. Like either I can't work or I die or whatever. And then that person is meant to raise my children. Obviously, coming from a good family that would support her would be nice. But who she is the most important thing. That's like a crazy important role in my life because that person has to be mother, best friend, business partner, cheerleader, like homemaker. Women make homes. This is where I live. This is not a home. I just have walls and a roof. It's not a home. Nothing really has any. I just have things around me that are easy access, like my digestive enzymes are on the table. I don't. No one's coming over. This is where I need it. Otherwise, I'll forget. So a lot to think about. So I guess my fear now is ending up with the wrong person because I can see around me how the people that rushed into marriages, they didn't do their self development before having kids, how it manifests in the children. It's very interesting once you become aware of human behavior and trace things back and see how it originated and how it manifests. And then now I'm frozen in place. I'm 39. I'm 39 and I can't move forward because moving forward would at this point be moving backwards. Like the peace and understanding and tranquility and the wu wei. I somehow haven't been able to find a partner that contributes to that. They just take from it. So, with before kids to take from it, that's not a good sign. Um, how do you find someone who's not afraid? If you find out, let me know. I think fear is alchemy. Those two things are intimately connected. I have a list. I'm not sure when I wrote this. What I need in a partner. Because because once we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. I also wrote down here when the below matches the above, you can control fate. When your reality, when you become aware of your reality and how you're unconsciously leading yourself places, then you can control fate. So I wrote down what I need in a partner. And I can't, if this doesn't happen, and there's no I mean, it will happen because I'm in control, but it's too important to be fucking around anymore, you know? Enlightenment will seem crazy to the unconscious ego. Birds born in a cage think flying is an illness. The first thing on my list, they've completed some sort of spiritual or psychological development. Otherwise, we're worlds apart. I think everybody has, to borrow a phrase from someone who took advantage of me, a God sized hole in their heart. So it's as cringy to say as it is to hear. But Carl Jung talks about how the human psyche needs an answer to the question. Not that you join a cult or a religion or pray to a certain God, but that you have to have a belief on how the world works. And without that belief, you are basically a rudderless ship. You have no direction. You're doing things just to do them. Because if you think you could die at any moment, if you think that your life has no purpose, that there's no purpose in your suffering, if you can't figure those questions out, there's no point in living. And even if your conscious mind wants to disagree with that, your subconscious mind wholeheartedly agrees with that. So I have this like dilemma where I want to fix the world. I want to help the suffering. And I also, for fuck's sake, I want to be loved. Is that too much to ask? Motherfucker. Um, Properly. Fuck's sakes. Um, but people that are numbing themselves uh, don't know how to love. Because imagine drinking alcohol as a poison. You don't love your own body. You're like, oh, it's worth it because I'm having fun. You're borrowing from the future, period. Whether you believe that's a spiritual thing or just a physical, scientific thing, it's true. How much poison is okay for your body to process? Especially as a woman, it's like that's a vessel to hold a child. And then all the women in my generation have the same whatever disorder. I don't even know what it's called. I forget the name. Or they get ovarian cysts and all this like shit. It's like you're putting poison in your body constantly. Um, I don't know where I was going with that. Emotional stability is the second one. I can't build a future or present on uncertainty. Funny, I wrote this down a while ago, and it's still true. So, if someone hasn't done the work, right? Day to day, they'll have different goals. Day to day, they'll have a different outlook. Day to day, they'll want different things for the future. And I can't. How do you plan for that? A good litmus test is to see if you have plans together for the future. Otherwise, you're wasting your time because that person's using you for emotional support. Number three is health conscious, including and especially mental health. Those three are going to be very hard. Number four, family oriented. Ooh. Um, I gave like a specific example, which I'm not going to read out loud, but when you're in a relationship, that person becomes your family. So that means they become part of your family. So presumably, you integrate those two things, your two families. I don't believe in keeping those things separate. I don't believe when people date, they should like, let's wait a year to introduce you to my parents. It's like, let's find out if, I see the posts on Reddit. I see what happens with in laws ruining relationships. What the fuck are you waiting for? Waste your time. Let's see if it fits. Does this fit? You're black and my parents hate black people? That was a hypothetical. It's not true. Um, but you get it. Not selfish or self absorbed. So, someone who's in pain or in fear is going to be necessarily selfish or self absorbed because they're trying to not hurt. But if someone follows their feelings only, chaos will also follow. Because when your feelings are the most important thing, they direct you. And your feelings oftentimes lie. Number six, understanding of the actual spiritual world. Not a sheep that follows trends at the expense of their well being. Someone with a sixth sense like me. So, like, I have always resisted popular things. When they did the ice bucket challenge, I'm like, why? No. When, like, whatever change your profile picture to this, go fuck yourself. Like, anytime there's a trend, if you're always following the trend, you're always following. You're a sheep. Like you can't, you're not thinking for yourself. So, like, someone who's intentional, it's like I do things if there's a reason behind it. Otherwise, I'm not fucking doing it. Um, because it's showing someone who doesn't have mental toughness, someone who can be persuaded. It was interesting to see during the disease how people responded in fear. People lined up to get experimental medicine that you can't sue the companies for because they were afraid. On the other hand, those other folks on the exact opposite side were also afraid. There were so many conspiracies coming out every single day. And I realized whether you're afraid of the disease or you're afraid of the cure to the disease and who's behind it and why and blah, 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 you're still afraid. So what did those people do? They bought toilet paper. Both. The medicine people and the anti-medicine people both went and bought toilet paper. So Johnson & Johnson got rich regardless. Or whoever the fuck makes toilet paper. So understanding of the actual spiritual world. Now, I don't know if there are other people who have the same views as me. But for instance, like Monster energy drink, Red Bull. Like these are, okay, it's a cool marketing name, let's say. It could mean something worse, right? Um, I won't spoon feed you the conspiracy, but is it something necessary? If not, why take the risk? I told someone that like doing breath work or getting high in a public place is dangerous because some people can, as far as I understand it, and you can see documented anecdotal evidence of this. It's just subjective. I don't know how you measure it, but that certain people take advantage of you or entities, if they exist, can um, attach to you. And then they did it anyways. Now imagine if that person was the parent of my children. Now, my knowledge of the spiritual world comes from personal experience. It comes from reading books like the Nag Hammadi, the Red Book, the Hermetica, Rudolf Steiner's books. It comes from like knowledge of ancient spiritual texts. I've been steeped in it. And I've been steeped in it because I've had experiences that I can't explain. Now, if I have experience with something, if I'm an engineer, and I say, don't cross that bridge because it's not safe, and then you say, well, fuck you, I don't believe you, and cross the bridge, maybe you make it to the other side. But was that a good thing to do? Also, go fuck yourself. That was rude. That was fucking rude. Um, everybody's like, you're free to make your own decisions, I suppose. Not I suppose, you are. But if I imagine like I'm concerned for someone's safety and say, please don't do this because I'm worried, and then they do it anyways, is showing a complete lack of respect um, and disregard, not for just my feelings. Like, my feelings are the least of my worries. It's like, how are you making decisions? How are you making decisions? That's why that part of your spiritual journey needs to be answered. How are you making decisions? It shouldn't change day to day. That's all I'm saying. Connect on deep chats, deep issues. Staring at the stars to contemplate the universe rather than talk about drama. I complained that someone close to me got married to someone just because they numbed themselves the same way. And then, like, the women I date, like, we don't even have that. Like, just trauma bond. But connection shouldn't be just physical or just emotional. How do you make your decisions? So if you have a different outlook on life, yeah, you're pulling in two different directions. And I know that that's just doomed. So there has to be a material connection that is deep. And I have deep connections with friends, and more oftentimes female friends than male, because I don't know any male friends that are on a spiritual path. I know one. Um, but we talk about important things and enlightenment things, like things that change our lives or change the lives of other people, rather than did you hear who broke up with who and who did this and who did that. It's like, I don't fucking, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. So this girl that wanted to be my friend, I'm like, why? Like, you don't like anything about me. If I talk about the things that I love and believe and that could help you, you aren't interested. So what the fuck is this friendship? Back off, cat. Someone who has goals other than survive, buy things, make money. And if they don't have the goals, they're at least willing to follow my lead. So buying things, especially women, especially in the Persian community, it's like there's some satisfaction that comes from people knowing that you have money or that you have fashion sense or something. And it's a low vibrational thing. And there's a reason they say all these brands are satanic. Like, Balenciaga means the devil is king in Latin. Um, and you can take my word for it because apparently I do speak Latin in my dreams. So Ball was Like I played Diablo 2. You go to the end and fight Ball, and to level up, you did Ball runs. And then it just so happens those assholes have like marketing materials that had child sex or child endangerment stuff in it. I don't care how good it looks. No, thank you. That's the knowledge of the spiritual world. You know what I mean? Like, who are you giving money to? On that subject, who are you giving money to? I talked to an investment place. They're like, oh, let us manage your money, blah, blah, blah. And they have investment accounts. And like, we get an average of like 6 to 7% year over year. I'm like, okay, how do you do that? Well, we invest in certain companies. What companies? Like defense and blah, blah, blah. So, defense, alcohol, cigarettes, like, I would essentially be profiting off the suffering of mankind. Now, if there wasn't a stock market, I would argue that these wars wouldn't exist. If it wasn't profitable to have war, there would not be war. What happens as soon as on CNN they declare Russia has invaded Ukraine? Northrop Grumman, fucking Raytheon, all these motherfuckers skyrocket. Every greedy dickhead with no soul rushes to go profit off of it, off of actual human suffering. You cannot separate your money from yourself. That is your energy. You traded your time and effort for that money. And now you're giving that money to cause death and suffering. And you wonder why your life isn't going the way you want it to. You cunt. Now, I have a friend. I just had lunch with him the other day. He was saying he's he's got some kind of like NFC company. I don't want to name the name, but it's like for some reason he's marketing in the adult entertainment industry, and he's saying like how good he's doing because he's not tempted and he's going to these meetings and like there are topless women porn stars and stuff like that, and he's like all about business and how everyone's respecting him. And then he's a spiritual person, and he was saying he's like it's weird he told me that he told me in a convention center, this is his words, and I'm not saying I believe it. I'm skeptical. Anything that I don't experience firsthand, I'm skeptical of. He says in a meeting or in a convention center, he asked a strange looking man who was looking at him strange where something is. And then the guy responded strangely. I know I'm being vague. And my friend said that when he spoke, he smelled brimstone. And then the guy said something about, like, you guys all have questions. All of you. Like, as if this is a demon or a fallen angel or the devil himself. And then he said as he's watching the guy leave the room, it looks like he's floating. I don't fucking know. I wasn't there. But he says that, I'm like, okay. And then he was talking about how he's having these meetings and there's no resistance. He's like thinks, that adult entertainment industry, you can only surmise, is full of shady fucking people. The sex trafficking and drugs and blah blah blah. I don't have to mention it. Plus, like what you're doing with your body, like you better hope there's not a god with the shit you're doing. So he says how everything's going well and he's meeting with people that he assumed like they're going to be energy vampires and take his energy and all this shit. I'm like, then I slept on it and I texted him. I was like, if you don't encounter the devil on your path, it means you're walking in the same direction. Why would he stop you if you're helping him? And he's like, you're right. And I told him how like I couldn't separate my money, me investing in something, causing human suffering, even if I'm causing 0.0001%. I shouldn't be doing that at all. I don't believe it should exist. There shouldn't be a stock. What the fuck is the stock market? It is fucking everything up. It's obviously clearly rigged. Like I even think that GameStop, Hello Kitty, or whatever the fuck that guy is, I think he's a plant. Um. So yeah, Somehow this relates to finding a partner, but again, like, how do you make your decisions? Like, if I was able to make a fuck ton of money off of human suffering or human sin, let's say, like, not even suffering, like cam girls, like what Andrew Tate does, like have AI chat to horny men who, you mean, like, still, like, what am I creating in this universe? I was born, like, to do that, to help guys come on their cat's face or whatever they're doing. Do what you want, you know? Do whatever you want. I'm just saying. Feminine energy. There's one man here, god damn it. I steer the fucking ship. Now, something I notice is there is a artificial war between men and women where necessarily we require each other. It's an absolutely insane thing, and people switching teams is also insane. But the men and women adopting characteristics of each other. Now, according to the Kybalion, the Hermetic principles, we all contain feminine and masculine energy. And if you incorporate your shadow, like creativity is a feminine aspect, listening is a feminine aspect, like asserting your will is a masculine. You know, like they're we can both swing a leg over the fence every now and then, but um, a woman's strength is in being a woman. A man's strength is in being a man. Can they? I can do the dishes, sure. Yes, I'll do the dishes. I'll do whatever you need help with. Like, I'll do all the feminine things. I'll also listen to your problems. I'll also, like, we can get our fucking nails done. Probably not that, but get a massage. How about that? I'll do all this shit. Like, I have feminine energy as well. But leave the man shit to the men. Like, don't compete with me because like, we are stronger. We're meant for different things. I cannot carry the baby, so I will help bottle feed. Yes, but no matter how much they suck on my test, milk's not coming out. Milk is not coming out. So someone who's in their feminine energy, so I can be in my masculine energy, so that we complement each other, yin and yang. We still contain, I still contain feminine energy, and you still contain masculine, but we shouldn't be jockeying for position. So, but what the fucking world out there is teaching women that they don't need men, and men to masturbate instead of finding a woman. Um, it's all fucked. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. Number 10 is a conscious person who only does things for a reason, who self analyzes and corrects course. Now, that's because that's the type of person I am. And again, it comes down to how do you solve a problem? Because there are big problems in life, bigger than where are we going to eat today, bigger than what TV show we're going to watch. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't even get those right, fuck me, what chance do you have? But this list can be very long or it can be very simple, and it's more or less the same thing over and over again. Um, the last thing I'll say is my friend texted me um, really late last night and said she was talking to her friend who's really depressed, confided in her that the friend's really depressed, and said, would you mind talking to her? Because I told her about you and told her how you changed my life. And I said, of course. Also, like, what an awesome thing to validate. She like read some of the thing, like the journals that I've written, and she was like, "You're such a great writer. I loved when you said this." She's like naming specific things. I'm like, "Yes, this is why we're friends." It's like, you get it. We belong here. And I'm comparing that to like, women I've dated. I'm comparing that to even the girl who wanted to be my friend, um, who's like completely lost but not willing to do anything about it. There's everybody's lost, but I don't need to like carry everybody with me. I only have so much energy. So if someone needs my help, I'm happy to give it. But from now on, if my help is not asked for, I'm not going to waste my fucking time. I'd love to fix the world. I really would. I'd love to show people how to see in color when they see in black and white. I'd love to show people how they can conquer their demons, how they can overcome their fears, how they can individuate, how they can be whole, because that's what people need more than anything. I guess that's the purpose of this. Like, other than being like me documenting how I'm thinking and feeling at the time and leaving my breadcrumbs and having a conversation with people long after I'm gone, like, this serves no other purpose. I don't know if I can get there. I don't. That's like a saint thing. But at least my friend said that I changed her life. Like, that's awesome. She said she trusts me implicitly, and I think like in my relationships there was never any trust. Any of my relationships. I suppose men are untrustworthy. But like, imagine me being on like I don't watch porn or masturbate, and still I get people worried about me cheating. You know, I guess it's not a fear in based in likelihood. It's a fear based in how much it hurts. But you're in control of how much it hurts too. I realized because every time I've been cheated on, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it was like that. Oh, this is the end. Okay, it was a hard stop because I'm too forgiving, I suppose. Oh, you're right. It's my fault. You cheated. You're right. Anyways, that's enough. I don't know what this is going to look or sound like, but it's June 18th, 2024. Signing off. Goodbye.